Okay, it's been a long day. We just hit the wrong button again, but here we go. It's Tuesday. It's Mel and Win speaking about podcasting, actually. Mel just asked me a very intelligent question before we got on the call, but I'm going to answer it live on air. And yes, you will probably be sick and tired of hearing my voice by the time you hear this episode. But it's Tuesday, and as of today, we hit 4,000 downloads. Thank you very much, every single person who's downloaded this episode. Now I'm just episodes, I should say, with the S. And then now I'm just trying to get it up to 700 downloads per episode, which means when an episode comes out, you guys share it and get it all together to make it equal 700 downloads per episode. But enough about my little rock star moment. I'm going to talk about with Mel picking your niche and what you should be in. And then in a couple minutes, I'm actually going to let Mel in here in 2 minutes. But because the podcasting space is so heavy, I want you guys to take out a piece of paper as you're listening to this. Don't do it while you're driving. Don't do it on a treadmill. You may have to sit down at theater with your earphones in and listen to this episode. And I want you to write on this piece of paper what your strong point is. I.e., my strong point is talking about disability. So I want you to pick what your strong point is and then go based off of that. Don't pick a podcast subject if you're not passionate about it, because that's not going to last very long. And if you're going to do a podcast about football, let's say American football, as long as you're passionate about it, that's fine. But if you're going to do a podcast about English football, aka soccer, and you're not very passionate about it, don't do it. So I want you to write down on a piece of paper and then screenshot it and send it to Mel or myself and list what you're passionate about. List it 1 to 5 so we know, and then we can guide you guys to the next step. And that being said, you come to all of us and you say, can you help me with my podcast? But I don't want to pay the fee of $300. I charge $300 for my podcasting services. And then people say, I don't want to pay the fee. And yet, people charge for their consulting, just like Mel does. Thank you very much. He doesn't coach people for free. At least I don't think he does. Mel, do you coach people for free?
Rarely. And if I do, it's because it's a case where I want to be philanthropic and it fits. But no, I rarely do.
Thank you. So let's start from there. And you can coach yourself if you're really passionate about your niche. I interviewed 2 women today, 2 separate women. One is passionate about unique families, and she has a podcast out of Canada called the New Family Podcast. The other one is passionate about helping the disabled child by giving them superhero cakes. And so that would be a perfect niche to do a podcasting in. No, she's not a podcaster yet. I don't think I could convince her. But see, those are examples that those people are passionate about. Because once you pick your niche, you have to be consistent. So, Mel, do you have any questions for me?
More so kind of just to take off of what you said, you got to be passionate about what you want to talk about. You can't possibly elaborate or form any kind of an opinion if you're not somewhat knowledgeable, or at the least bit knowledgeable, or at least an expert at what you do. I mean, I've been in business for a long time, and I've invested 33 years of my life to the knowledge base that I have and the professional biography that I have. And when I opened my brick and mortar business, which was a very successful Fitness Together luxury personal fitness training franchise in 2003 to 2008, I had an uncle who was a corporate executive, and he was advising me, and he said, and I think that the conversation was, whether or not I was going to be successful. He didn't even have a question about it. He said, the reason why you're going to be is because it's what you do already. So when it comes to podcasting, I would imagine that the ability to speak to whatever area of expertise you have has everything to do with the fact that you already do that area of expertise. And, being conversational about it is key, right? I don't know how you could possibly succeed in podcasting or any speaking endeavor if you actually don't do what it is you talk about. Can you?
No, you can't. No, you can't. I don't want to sound like I'm a dummy here, but now you're asking me the kindergarten questions because you just want to know. And no, you can't speak about disabilities unless you're passionate about it. Thank you very much. And that's why I expanded my teaching to this podcasting realm. One, I needed to talk to adults more than kids, but two, I needed to teach those kids' parents how to talk to them about diversity.
Right. It's...
And so... Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, in finding your niche, I would like to think that whoever decides to do a podcast, whether it's because they're passionate about something or they want to use it as a vehicle for lead generation, and that's what a lot of coaches do, to add value out to the market, but also leverage themselves as an expert in their industry, you absolutely have to have speaking as one of your superpowers. You can't freeze up. You cannot have stage fright doing it. I don't know if there's, I'm sure you could probably learn it if you really want to, but that would be like asking myself to be a prolific writer. I am not a great writer. I painfully write. I've learned to become a decent writer, but my superpower is speaking. So whenever I've come to the conclusion that if I'm going to make meaningful words meaningful on paper, I've got to do it from a voice rather than the intellect of a writer. By no means, of any stretch of the imagination, am I a writer. So I think you got to stick to your strengths, and once you do that, once you find your niche, then off you go, right?
It's so funny that you say that because the woman who I interviewed today just texted me, and she's out of Canada, and she goes, do you want to write something for the 1,000 Families project that I'm doing? And I replied to her, I said, can it be audio? Because I speak better than I type. I've learned that I can't type. I dictate my book. You guys know that by now. So I speak better than I type. But you have to be passionate about it. That's why I said at the top of this show, take out a piece of paper, and yes, I said take out the legal notepad and write what you are passionate about. then we could talk further. You and I privately could talk further about your passion, but you have to be passionate about, and I could say, no, I don't want to help you. I mean, because I can tell whether you're really passionate about something or you're just doing it because it's the next best thing and you're trying to keep up with the Joneses and you're trying to keep up with a podcaster who's made a name for herself in the land of cerebral palsy. And so, and Mel's knowing to turn down clients, I know he is, because they're not even, there's not an ounce of passion about coming out of his coaching session, or they just don't want to do the work that Mel's giving them. Is that right, Mel? Have you been knowing to turn down coaching clients if they're not a good fit?
Oh, absolutely. I'm absolutely not in the convincing business. I can tell you that. But I am the best coach in the world for the person who absolutely needs me. If you want to get to that next level, and you and I have great chemistry, and you're willing to do, there's no question about what you're willing to do to get there, then I'm your person. But it's a great start. But if I have to talk you into it or coach you into it or anything like that, no way. I'll fail immediately, and I'm not going to put myself or you through that. So, no, the answer is no. There's no way. Yeah.
So there's no way. So,
No.
Mel, you might have to explain your process right on air. When do you give free coaching calls?
You know, there's a process I go through, a pre-qualification process. It starts with just a simple conversation to see, you know, if they're a good fit for what I do. I'm in a position now in my industry where I get to pick and choose who I want to work with because it's so much work. And you know this, and any coaching, any teaching, it's so much work. And you want to set your client up or your student up for success. And that has a lot to do with what they're willing to do. You know, I had a referral today from a husband and wife who's been working out with me for the last 2 months, gotten great results. And over another Sunday Easter church service, you know, they had introduced me to another couple. They were supposed to come today, and you know, the one reason or another, they couldn't make it. Blah blah blah, all that. And my clients started feeling bad about it. And they said, "God, I'm sorry I didn't make it." And I said, "See, this is why I schedule 2 to 3 complimentary sessions ahead. I give them chances, especially when there's referrals like this." I said, "We have another one already set up in the books for Thursday at 12 o'clock. If they show up to that, then we know at least they've taken action. That's one part of it. If they don't, then it's okay because nothing was lost. We clearly know exactly what they're willing to do and not to do, and you know, no feelings are hurt or you know whatnot, and we just move on. So no, it's you know." You can lead a horse to water, but at the end of the day,
you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. And the reason why I bring Mel into this whole picking your niche thing is because he is really passionate about doing what he does, whether it's fitness training or life coaching. And so he's really passionate about what he does, and now he's really passionate about the podcasting end of it because he wants to make changes in the world. So if you want to make changes in the world and you're passionate about it, go ahead. By all means, hit me up or hit Mel in the fitness industry, and we'll be able to help you. But if you're not passionate about changing your fitness and changing the way you look, literally, you can't be passionate about getting behind Mike unless you're really, really passionate about spreading a message that you think should be spread. Don't do it just because famous podcasters are doing it.
Yeah, no, it's, another thing about, you were mentioning earlier that person that interviewed you wanted you to write something and you had requested, well, can you do audio? That's the beauty about technology these days is that, when I like to send personal messages, whether they be by text or by audio or even a short video clip to each client or anybody that I need to get my point across, and if it's really important. And the beauty about audio through the spoken word of a podcast or just a recorded message is that your voice can really translate the emotion behind what you're trying to say, the passion behind the message that you want to convey, and just through the diction, through the tone, all that stuff. Sometimes that gets lost in translation in the written word. Unless you're just an unbelievable writer and you have this incredible way of delivering and your vocabulary is just spot on, which, for myself, it's not. But in the spoken word, if you want me to deliver a particular message or if there's something that I want to tell you that's so vital or instrumental or critical to your success or anything about what you're doing, I'm going to record a voice message, send it to you. If I'm really, really adamant about it, I'm probably going to record a short video and send it to you. So that's the power and the beauty of technology today. And it's so awesome that you were able to offer that. Did they take advantage of it? Did she say yes, Lynn? Are you going to be able to send a message?
We're working as we record this podcast, and her podcast is coming out on Monday. By the way, this podcast is coming out on Tuesday. We're working on it. She texted me back during this podcast interview, and she goes, unfortunately, it's all written, but we'll figure something out, I'm sure. And so I'm like, okay, you now want me to type? I do podcasting better than I type. So it's funny because people read these books out of me. Well, Siri helps me with that. So Siri is my secret weapon behind that. But if you're right now when you say I don't know how to put this. You put it so eloquently that I don't know how to follow it up. I really don't. You said the eloquency of audio is stronger than the power of message via text.
It can be. It can be because
it can be.
Certain words. I mean, in a text, you got to be careful on a text message because you can write a novel worth of text words.
Yeah.
In order just in order to get the right meaning behind what you're trying to say. Because a text message is meant to be abbreviated anyway, right? So nothing beats the exact words coming out of my mouth that you hear. If you were going through something when that was important to you, and I needed to convey something to you, whether or not you wanted me to. But if I felt compelled to send a message to you that I think was going to be instrumental for you to hear, I would much rather send you either an audio message that I record on my phone, or I'll videotape myself and just, emphatically or just candidly tell you how I feel. And that will come across to you and be much more meaningful to you rather than me sending whatever warbled text I have on my phone and leaving your devices to, look at it and go, oh,
figure it out.
Or what, And,
know what I'm
saying? Yeah. So.
Yes, I know what you're saying. And here's a tip for you guys. Well, I'm actually going to give you two tips since we talked about the niche a little bit. And next week, we're going to talk about naming your podcast. I don't want to overwhelm you guys too much, but next week we're going to talk about naming the actual podcast because you got to name the actual podcast so people can know where to find you. But here's a tip for you guys. Okay. I have an expensive podcasting mic, and I should use it more than I do. I admit that I don't use my expensive podcasting mic unless it's for international guests, and I don't feel like paying fee to call in. But what I do is I stick in a pair of Apple wireless headphones, call into a conference call line, and that's how I record my podcast. And I know some like Skype, some like Zoom. I like Zoom because it looks better than Skype, but others, technology is technology, so you may have problems with feedback on Skype or problems with feedback on Zoom. Actually, Zoom is pretty good. I like a conference call line because it's easy for me to do. I mean, I could do this podcast on an airplane if I wanted to, and it's so funny because I almost did a podcast with the ocean in the background. Last year, I had the opportunity to fly out to Southern California, which I may have to do in Skype, in-person podcast with Mel one of these days, and he knows it too. So, but that's how we do it. And Mel was asking me the cost of microphones. Now, please, that question that you asked me before we got on the call, Mel, and I'm going to answer it live here right on the podcast because, again, I'm passionate about podcasting and teaching people about disabilities as well.
Well, I believe I'd asked you earlier, what is there specific equipment that you use? Because I have some colleagues that have recorded their podcast auditorially as well as on YouTube. So I pulled it up, and they're there with all this equipment. I'm thinking, okay, is that required? If so, where do you get it? How much does it cost? How elaborate does it need to be? So fire away, Wynn. What is your ideal setup?
Fire away. I'm going to answer the easy question first and then answer the more difficult question. Okay. I have a fancy podcasting mic, which was given to me as a gift. But when I started this podcast, way back when, Wynn's Women of Wisdom on Blog Talk Radio, I'm doing it the same way I'm doing it today, with a pair of Apple wireless headphones and a conference call line. Now, if you want the high quality audio, you can download Skype, which is free, or Zoom, which is also free, and you can use the podcasting mic. A podcasting mic runs from $80 to about $100. But once you find a system that works for you, keep using it. And even though you see all these fancy podcasters go on YouTube, that's because they set it up on YouTube. Now, granted, I have my shows on YouTube. I have all of them, including ours. Mel's or not. And so YouTube, it sounds pretty good to me. I listen to myself on YouTube, and I used to do it via Skype and be all technical about it. But I'm like, yeah, that's going to work for me. Not because you may have to text people and say, look, I'm sick. I tried to keep a consistent schedule of podcasting, but recording via a conference call line is easier for me, but that's just my personal preference. So it's all personal preference.
Okay. All right. Wow. That's awesome. So, it's just a matter of preference, and it's a matter of, how much you want to spend, and if it works, it works. Okay, that tells me a lot, because obviously what's easiest for us is just me calling into the conference line, and I could do it anywhere from my car, my office, or wherever I'm at, or, you know, if I'm sitting on a bike, just doing it with you.
Yeah.
All right. So once I'm hosting my own podcast, obviously I can't do that. I cannot do that. I'm going to have to, you know, have my own recording equipment just like you do when you fire it up, you know, after we've done our preliminary minutes prior to the show and whatnot. I'm basically going to be doing what you're doing, so it's good to know. Got it. Okay.
Yeah. But
what else?
It's all preference, and I will actually put you guys in the show notes the conference call system that I use, freeconferencecalling.com, and it has gone down on me, but we've managed to get it back up, and life is life. My interviewees are extremely accepting of a disability, and so sometimes I have to say, look, the conference call line has gone down. This is what we're doing, and sometimes people want higher quality audio. I had all-time famous podcaster, and I was shocked that he did this. He lives in Puerto Rico, of all places. John Lee Dumas. Yes, his interview is coming out tomorrow, and he called. I gave him the Zoom link. I had it all set up on Zoom, and my assistant Dan Eel goes, he's going to call in, and I'm like, yeah. Now this is a guy that does podcasts 7 days a week, and so I think he knows what he's doing. But no, he wanted to make it easy on me and call in, and I'm like, okay, well, I had all the technical end of me set up so we can make this interview the best we can, and it came out fabulous, actually. And so it's really, the reason why I share that story is because he's a guy that's got thousands and thousands of downloads, and he's been doing his podcast for 5 years and really knows his niche and really knows his audience and got thousands of downloads, and yet he's willing to call in to speak to me. And yet today he didn't want the high quality end of it. So it's really personal preference, but once you get a system that works for you, keep it, because it works for everyone else too.
So where does one find this equipment? I mean, can you just look on Amazon, or is there a particular website that carries podcasting equipment?
Okay. Here's your next homework assignment, you guys, and this goes to Mel too. Go type in on Amazon, Blue Yeti mics, Blue Yeti, Blue Yeti mics, and just Google Blue Yeti mics, and they will pop up. Type in Heil PR40, and they will pop up. Just type in podcasting mics on Amazon, and they will pop up. A lot of podcasters use Heils. I happen to have a Heil myself, and a lot of podcasters use Blue Yeti mics. The only problem not with my podcasting mic, though, my podcasting mic, you can hear my voice clearly as compared to hearing room noise. The only problem with Blue Yeti mics, you guys, is it will pick up everything in the room. And my dad, being a retired sound mixer for Bob Dylan, Neil Diamond, you name it, everyone under the sun, including the Pink Floyd, he doesn't like things that pick up noises in the room. Like when I'm opening up a door, the Blue Yeti mic will pick up the opening of the door, and you can't edit the opening of the door out of your podcast. And so I like the Heil PL40, and that's what he got for me. But yes, you can, and the Blue Yeti goes from $50, I think. The High PL40 is a little bit more expensive, and so that's the only problem with these Blue Yeti mics. But people seem to like them because they don't require a mixer. My mic unfortunately requires a mixer, and the Blue Yeti, you can. I'm actually thinking of selling my mic and getting Blue Yeti because you can plug it in to your laptop and have it all set up for you. See, I like ease. I like ease and convenience, as you guys can tell.
Wow, that's pretty awesome. So if I could just recap, the Blue Yeti mic is roughly about $50 and up. No mixer necessary, and you could plug it into your laptop. Is that correct, Lynn?
Yeah.
Okay.
Correct.
And the other one was named what? Could you say it a little slower? What, Highly something?
Hio PL40. Just Google Hio. And it's HELI. Hio.
HELI.
That's a LI. Yes. And it requires a little bit more technical work. And yeah. So if I was going to do it all over again, I would pick up a Blue Yeti for myself and just plug it in my laptop and then be good to go. But yeah. But
it's very sensitive though, right?
Yes. That's the only problem with the Blue Yeti. Because the Blue Yeti is so sensitive. And yeah, because of my dad's background, he doesn't seem to like feedback in podcasting, like or having the door open and the whole podcast being ruined by the door open. And so that's the problem with the Blue Yeti. The Blue Yeti is a very sensitive mic. Even though it's a good mic, it's a very sensitive mic. It picks up alien noises. And I've known people that have built rooms in their house specifically for their podcast. I mean, I'm not that technical yet, but eventually I will be.
Right. Yeah, it's important to have a room that's designated, or at least an environment where it's quiet and designated. Now, the other one, that Highly 40, I think you said it needs a mixer. It can't just stand alone on a laptop. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
It needs a mixer. It can't just stand alone on the laptop.
And it's not going to be as sensitive as a Blue Yeti. You can edit out background noise on it.
It's not going to be as sensitive. You could hear my voice on the Hio PL40. You could hear my voice crystal clear as a bell, whereas the Blue Yeti, you could probably hear a door opening and closing.
Yeah.
And that's why when we were deciding on what podcasting mics to get me, that's why the gift giver decided to go with the more expensive mic because of the better sound quality.
Right. Okay. All right. So let's say if you had to be mobile though, so you'd have to take your Highly 40 microphone plus your mixer plus whatever other equipment with you if you wanted to travel with it, as opposed to a Blue Yeti. All you need is your microphone and your laptop, right?
Yes. If you wanted to travel with it, you would have to break down your whole studio, and because I actually thought about this. If I move states and move houses, I would have to break down my whole podcasting studio. And I'm like, I like ease. You guys know that by now. I have so many challenges in my life. When it comes to podcasting, I like ease. So, yes, unfortunately, if you wanted to do a podcast outdoor with a Hio PL40, you would have to break it down. Now, I'm going to throw a podcast and a name out there who knows more than I do. Rob Walsh of Lipson The Feed, you guys, is our podcast. Lipson is actually my podcast host, which I pay $30 a month, monthly. So, he says there's field mics that plug into the bottom of your iPhone. I haven't yet to explore that, but I will, maybe, eventually. So that way you can just carry a small mic with you, a lavalier mic that hooks to your shirt lapel, and then you're on your way. But if you want to break down with a Heil PL40, which I don't recommend you do, I have, a couple weeks ago, I was on a radio interview. Actually, it was a podcast and for a radio station, and the interviewer just had a standing mic on a table, and she had a big mixer beside the standing mic, but the mixer was bigger than the mic. So each mic requires a mixer, but with the Heil PL40, the mixer is a requirement. With the Blue Yeti, it's not.
Well, that's a lot to consider based on how mobile you want to be, because that's something I have to kind of think about, because I move around a lot. I would love to have the power of the Heil 40 microphone without having to pick up anything, but at the same time, I'd love to be able to just be mobile with it with a minimal amount of equipment and not have to carry a mixer with me. I'm just trying to imagine sizes and the boxes and all this stuff. So anyway, a lot to look at.
Yeah.
I'm sure I can research
it. But
I
can actually take a picture of it and send it to you guys. I'll actually post it on my Instagram to you guys so you can say, Mel, you get it by a text, and so you can see the setup that I'm talking about. Now, personally, if you want my personal opinion, two options. Get a pair of Apple headphones and do it that way, or you can get a Blue Yeti and be mobile with it.
That sounds pretty cool. I mean, hell, I use the Apple iPhone headphones now, so it's just a matter of, when you're starting out, it's all trial and error anyway until you refine it and you just find the way you want to do it, right? Whatever works for you.
Yeah, but day one, I started out with a pair of Apple headphones and did that for a while. I'm still doing that. So whatever works for you, but that wouldn't be my recommendation. Skip the mixer. My God. Skip the complicated stuff because you and I are still on the go so much. Skip the web at a time so I can get in my office and record this podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I don't think I've ever been in the same place every time I did a podcast with you. Well, the car is probably the most common place for me.
Okay.
Once in a while I'll be in my office, but
no.
Nonetheless.
See, he admitted. See, Mel admitted he's on the go so much that he's looking for ease too. Quite frankly, I would recommend the Blue Yeti and laptop, but personally, it's best. It's personal preference, and how we are going to record the other podcast, the Wisdom of Fashion, is the same way that we record this one via conference call line, and it doesn't sound that bad. I mean, as I said, I had a famous podcaster who does it via Skype 7 days a week, call in to my conference call line, and he was pretty happy with it as long as I don't cough into the mic, which is that's my doing, not the technology's doing. But it's pretty good. These conference call lines are pretty good to what they can put up with.
Yeah, it also depends on what kind of line you're on, right? I mean, if you're on a landline, if you're on a cell line, it just depends on your connection and your bandwidth.
Yeah,
so,
it does.
You and I've been pretty lucky with our podcast. I think we're pretty solid.
Yes. Now we'll have to. I'm actually recording another podcast tonight at 5 p.m. my time via Skype. We've got to see how this one looks, and that's another whole story in itself. Why I've decided to co-host a podcast, but at least I get to be the co-host. So when a call hangs up, I don't have to do any of the work. Not to say that I don't do any of the work on this podcast either. I try and leave it as natural as I can, although I do have an editor, which I'll start again in June with. But we try and leave it as natural as we can, just so you guys can see that the humans say like one has a slight speech impediment, the other is just on go, and no, that's how I do it with most of my fan base, and so it's just personal preference. Do you have the time to sit and record a podcast properly, or do you need to be on go so much that a conference call line is easier?
Right. Yeah, no, it's, well, the only way I know is a conference line. So why change it?
Yeah.
That's probably
the way
Yeah.
Lynn taught you. That's
Right.
the only way they'll know.
Yeah. I mean, as long as it's effective, I mean, the technical side of it, okay, sure, it's part of the process. But at the end of the day, it's the content, it's the people behind it, it's the passion behind it, right? I mean, over time, if I get to the point where, if I get to the point where it's like, okay, well, on designated days and hours, I need to be in front of equipment. I need to, if I choose to, be total high fidelity and total high frequency, sure, why not? I'll invest in that. But at this point, I think based on the quality and the content and the success of our show, I think it's a pretty good model to follow, right?
Yeah, I mean, we've got 40,000 downloads. We must be doing something right now.
We must be doing something right.
So, so now you guys just need to help us get 700 downloads per episode, which isn't that bad. Which isn't that for I just looked at. And here's another tip for you guys: put your cell phone on airplane mode if you can help it, so it doesn't go off during the interviews. What I like to do is send people to voicemail, and I'm very good at sending people to voicemail. They end up getting my voicemail when I'm recording podcast interviews. That's the only problem when you record on a conference call line, is your second line goes off, and then we send you to voicemail, but not now. But so it's really about preferences and finding your niche. So is there anything else you would like to say on this podcast now? And I just think I lost Mel, if he's still there. One thing I would like to say is not only thank you for getting me 40,000 downloads, but it's all about consistency and it's all about your niche. Mel, you're still there. You just bailed on me. So, you were listening quietly. And what would be your final word, Mel?
Based on what we talked about earlier about passion and expertise and knowledge base, so critical that you have that. So critical because it's very hard to be conversational or have an effective presentation if you start out solo. B, it would be very hard to be engaging with a guest or a co-host if you don't have your own, professional biography and expertise and passion to draw from, right? And C, at the end of the day, your content, your niche, your passion really is what drives it. And it sounds like based on my needs, the mobile way is going to be the way to go. And like anything, when you learn something new, don't worry about being too perfect. Focus on actually doing it and improving over time. The audience loves the human side of it. The audience loves knowing that you're growing, knowing that you're getting better every time. Out of over 250 Facebook Live and recorded videos that I've done, I can honestly tell you none of them were perfect. I ad-libbed every single one. I have flat out forgotten half of the things that I was going to talk about, and I make fun of myself to do it. And I get more feedback from that because of the human side of it and the candidness rather than trying to be too perfect and stiff. So anyway, love working with you, Wynn. I think you're awesome, and it's a great model to follow, and I love what we learned today, or love what I learned today, what you showed.
What you learned, and you guys can reach out to both of us, and then we can guide you through what you needed to be guided. And I know it's a challenge when you start out a podcast. I still get nervous interviewing the big podcasters, even though I've done this 1,000 times. But they seem to make me feel like I don't. So we will catch you guys this Friday. It's been a long weekend. It's only Tuesday. You guys, it's been a long weekend. It's only Tuesday. I've had guests here try to leave, and then I came back last night. It's Easter weekend. I have had family in town, and I finally got rid of the house guest today. And the house guest happens to be my stepsister. So I'm like, I love you dearly, but get out of my space. So it was fun. It was fun, but it's been a long weekend. It's only Tuesday. So yes, you guys, we will see you on Friday, and I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. And I don't know what we're going to talk about on Friday because it's Mel's turn to talk about this subject. So I'll see what he comes up with. But I hope that you guys enjoyed another fabulous episode, and we'll catch you guys on Friday. Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.